father, grandfather, and one of gospel music's most prolific singer-songwriters, but first and foremost, a true man of God. Walter Hawkins and his family changed gospel music, creating a new and exciting sound. Their impressive award-winning recordings have made them superstars. And if that wasn't enough, in 1973, he founded the Love Center Ministries Church, continuing a legacy of praise and worship unparalleled in gospel music. This is Faith and Fame, the extraordinary life of Bishop Walter Hawkins. Oakland, California in the 1950s was an emerging community with its favorable weather, rolling hills, and naval shipyard. It was a decent place to raise a family. Walter, the seventh of 8 children, was born to Dan Lee and Mamie Vivian Hawkins. This tight-knit family lived in one of the poorest sections of East Oakland. The struggling parents felt the secular pull of the streets were always in competition with the spiritual life they had in mind for the family. It was the foundation of the church, instilled in the children at an early age, that would ultimately be the strength and salvation for the entire Hawkins family.
There were 8 children born to the family. We were quite poor growing up. I hear people tell the story sometimes. They say, we didn't realize how poor we were. I knew how poor I was. As a child, I never had anything brand new. We were just too many children. We lived in the projects. My mom and dad, we always had something to eat. If we didn't, we'd go to her sister's home. Her sister had 12 children. So we'd eat beans and rice and cornbread with them. When they ran out of food, they'd come over and eat with us. So often we shared that way. But it made me very, very grateful for what God has blessed me with today.
A patient father and a deeply religious mother were strong parental influences in developing character in the Hawkins children. But there was a rich Southern heritage of musical talent on both sides of the family.
Both my parents come from the South. My mother from Texas, my father from Louisiana. My mother's brother, who was a professional jazz musician, and he would often come to the house and rehearse there, so we heard a lot of jazz. My aunt, my mother's younger sister, lived with us while she was in college. We heard a lot of pop music. Growing up in our home, where my father was not a Christian, my mother was. We kind of saw both sides of life.
I am the youngest sibling of the Hawkins family, and there's a 5-year difference between Walter and I. And so when I came along, they were well on the way in performing and singing, and, you know, I was anxiously awaiting the time to be able to go and sing with them, travel with them.
When I was growing up, I always envisioned myself doing music. My mother had this, we bought this brand new console, and we would play all of James Cleveland, Caravans, the Ward Singers, and all of those folks. And I would envision myself being on stage singing with all these folk.
They used to tell him that he could not sing. And I'm like, okay, I wasn't there, so I don't know, I can't. But that's what my other siblings say. They say he couldn't really hold a tune. I'm like, wow.
In the late 60s, around 68 or so, our little community choir here at home did a song, Oh Happy Day, and that song, of course, took off.
When Jesus walked, when Jesus walked, when Jesus walked, when Jesus walked.
Oh Happy Day became the most enduring gospel song of all time.
That initial recording was done on a 2-track machine at our church, which was the Ephesian Church of God in Christ. They started to play it, and it was a hit on the rock station in San Francisco, and then hit in New York and kind of merged across country.
I thought that it would probably end with my, that was my brother's song, and things would probably end with that song dying. But here we are, some 40 years later still. This dream I had as a kid actually came true.
Recorded in 1968, Oh Happy Day reached #2 on the R&B charts and #4 on the Billboard pop charts. More than 7 million records were sold. Truly an amazing achievement for a gospel group. Walter's contributions to the success of this song is immeasurable, and it later would be the catalyst that catapulted his career to the next level. The phenomenal success of the 1969 crossover hit of the Edwin Hawkins singers Oh Happy Day, Walter found himself at a career crossroads. Where to go from here?
I couldn't make myself satisfied with just being a part of the Edwin Hawkins singers. I branched off, and we started doing some local clubs and just really trying to find myself musically. We did, with the Hawkins singers, we were doing, of course, mostly Edwin's material and stuff. I got a chance with my 3 sisters and myself to do my own writing and exploring my own ability to create. I had a young lady who worked with me in administration when I first started pastoring, and she said to me, I was trying to think of a name for our church, and she says, what does your ministry represent to you? I said, well, I want to have a universal kind of inclusionism about what we do. She says, well, why don't we call it the Love Center, So that's a real interesting name, So I like that, So she, of course, was the visionary behind the name for our first album. It's like, well, it's related to the church. It is the church choir. Let's call it Love a Lot, Okay, we'll call it Love a Lot. But when I did that project, I wasn't at all sure that it would ever even reach the marketplace. I just decided, I'm kind of impulsive, and I just went to a choir rehearsal one night, and I said to our little choir at that time, 16 voices, let's record. They're like, hey, okay, yeah, let's record, Now, mind you, I didn't have any money, and I didn't have a recording deal or anything of that nature, but we took the few little songs that we'd been singing for a little while. I, of course, at the start of the church, was the church musician, the janitor, and everything, So, I taught him a few original compositions, and we went with those songs, went back to my home church where we recorded Oh Happy Day, and we had an audience of maybe 300 or 400 people, and we recorded. And then it's like, what am I going to do with this project, Here's this raw, live project, and at that time, live projects weren't all that popular. I didn't know how would be received, but I made a call to a friend of mine in LA. His name is Andre Crouch, and Andre and I had a mutual friend who was at the recording, and he recorded on this little pocket cassette player and played it for Andre.
Andre Crouch was not only a friend of Walter's, but one of the most influential artists in the industry today. From touring with Billy Graham in the late 60s and 70s to writing the soundtrack for the award-winning The Color Purple, his greatest contribution has been the numerous inspirational hits he has given to gospel music. On any given Sunday, in any given church, you are likely to hear a choir singing the songs of Andre Crouch.
So Walter sent me, he said, I got a tape I want you to hear. yonder. We were just, I said, Walter, you're crazy, crazy means good. I said, man, you got to come down here. I got to introduce you to the record company. And they freaked out. I said, this right here is a bomb. I said, Walter, I knew it was in you, but this right here is a killer.
And the response was, if Andre is this excited, we haven't heard it, but if he's this excited about this project, we want it. It hit the marketplace. It stayed on the charts at #1 for over a year. I could not believe it. And so the record company, of course, after that, asked or request that we do a follow-up. And it was like I couldn't think of a name that would better suit, a follow-up than Love Alive 2. So it ended up that we actually did 5 to date. Yeah.
The Love Alive series of albums were a critical and popular gospel music success. Love Alive 2, released in 1978, sold 190,000 copies. Love Alive 3 sold more than 1 million copies in 1985. Love Alive 4 landed on the Billboard charts for an unprecedented 39 weeks. All of this demonstrated that the baby boy of the family had finally come into his own. As a child, Walter was influenced by groups that performed on the gospel revival circuit. Many of these early gospel pioneers, like the legendary Albertina Walker and the Caravans, inspired him to emulate their styles.
The first person that comes to mind when I think of inspiration, my inspiration, is Albertina Walker. I kind of modeled myself after her. She had a great group of singers. I felt like the Hawkins family was just a really, really strong entity, and I wanted to make them the new Caravans. Growing up, we listened a lot to groups like the Ward Singers, the Davis Sisters, the Staple Singers. And my mother was very comfortable with that, of course, because that's all gospel, But my father, because he wasn't in church, introduced us to other music, and he liked, my father liked country and western. So every morning we got up to my father getting ready for work at 5 o'clock in the morning, listening to this radio station that played all these country and western artists. And then, of course, he would tell my mother that the kids should be allowed, to listen to an array of stuff. So she says, okay, well, you can't bring any hardcore secular music in. You can listen to people like Tony Bennett or Barbra Streisand or, things like that, that kind of stup. And so there was this hodgepodge of music in our house.
Coming up, Coda Records and the story of the critically acclaimed solo project, A Song in My Heart, when we return.
Get that master back, the audio, and set that editing session for the DVD. Yeah, you ready? Okay.
Stepping out on nothing but faith in God and a belief in the songs in his heart, Bishop Walter Hawkins, along with his manager, James Edmond, formed Coda Records.
Coda Records, this is James Edmond. Yes, that date is good.
Starting my label was kind of a step that I really didn't want to make. I didn't know what running a label would entail. But the interesting thing that happened with my last project that I recorded was my tenure in music industry. I was not getting a response from the traditional labels or the major labels, to all of my years in the business that I felt that I deserved. And so I said to myself, well, if you want to do it right, then maybe you're going to have to do it yourself.
I want to give God thanks tonight by just saying, I will sing your praise, for you've done such a marvelous thing. For someone so wretched.
And I talked with my manager, and we decided that, yeah, the best thing to do at this particular time is to start our own label. I got high on the idea of starting the label also because of the fact that I feel like my time as a musician and singer may be coming to an end.
Walter has passed the torch of musical director for Love Center Ministries to his son, Jamie, allowing him to focus more on writing and developing new artists for Coda Records.
I will continue to write forever, I think. But I also felt like it was a time for me to start thinking in terms of really giving back and maybe grooming some younger artists, you know. I mean, I got all of this history under my belt, you know, I gotta, you know, tell somebody what they need to do or how they need to do to be successful in having a career in music, you know?
It was a defining moment in Walter's career when he recorded the highly anticipated CD, A Song in My Heart, on his new label. This was the first time in his career that he performed solo.
I don't think that I can say, as a singer, that I've actually had a style in the past. Because singing was not what I focused on. I did the creative work. I did the writing and orchestrating of putting everything together. Producer, I played that role more with my family in the choir than I did the artist role. And so when I got ready to do the solo project, I incorporated a couple other producers to help push me. I pulled in a guy named Carl Wheeler. Carl worked with Tony. Carl is a church kid, you know, he's a lot younger than I am, but he's an old man in spirit. And I kind of like, initially, the relationship was more of just kind of running stuff by him and saying, well, what do you think, Carl, you know? And then later on, it was like he just kind of slid into a co-producing kind of role with me. So I just really came to depend upon him. He's an excellent musician and excellent arranger. And I would give him some of my material, a lot of the material that I wrote on the album, for him to just kind of take it and give it his flavor. Or just have this collaboration, you know, to see what would happen. And then the other producer, whom I'm very proud of, is Walter Hawkins Jr. And he wrote several of the songs on the album and co-produced with his father. And he's a tough little cookie.
I've learned from the best. I've had a lot of people around me, my uncle Edwin and my father. You know, they didn't exactly say do it this way, but if you're around it and there's any kind of music in your blood, you're going to soak up something. I'm going to continue to learn from him as long as I can, you know. Like I said, I'm humbled by the fact that he placed so much, you know, he was such a title on me, tough cookie.
You are a tough cookie.
But, you know, I just hope that I can, you know, get all I can from the experience that he has, and take that to the next level, along with me and my wife. She's my partner. So we're just gonna do the best we can with the gift that God has given us, and hopefully Dad will be around to teach us a whole lot more.
When your emotions are undressed, He'll clothe you in righteousness, just to prove to you He's a forgiving God. You may have cried alone, harshly judged for your wrong by the folk who barely even know your name. Whoa, but God alone is judge, and from His throne above, He'll have mercy on your soul to reclaim, to reclaim. Whenever men never let you live things down.
God is just a prayer away. All you need to do is call.
A dynamic performer in his own right, what would be the perfect gospel concert for Bishop Hawkins?
I think the tenderness of CeCe Winans, she would have to be up in there. What she does with praise and worship now is just phenomenal. I think Ty Tribbett, just because of that youthful energy, Ty would definitely have to be a part of it. And the polish sound of someone like a Yolanda Adams.
This too shall pass, it's endless.
And the grounded piece would be the Hawkins.